is indeed another brand new day. Thank you so much for joining us on another edition of Ladies Talk. I'm your host, Winnie Adisa. Today, we are doing it different. We have a man on the show. It's such an honor, Mr. Kimani.
Thank you very much. In fact, I also feel honored to be in the Ladies Show.
You're premiering for the very first time on Ladies Talk. I wonder what you have in store for us. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about raising boys, and we are looking into what boys are. Because unless we understand what boys are, they can drive you to some little hell.
Wow.
Been there.
Yes, and of course we have the lovely Marianne. So good to have you guys on the show.
Thank you.
Karibu sana on Ladies Talk.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, plus a man.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
How are you, Mr. Kimani?
I'm perfectly fine. You know, when you mentioned about raising boys, I have a son, and as well as we are also raising others, more than 70 of them, because we have a high school, and these are all teenagers. It is a task, but when you understand where they are coming from and when you understand their nature, then you are able to steer them into the right direction and guide them into the right way.
Because I have two younger brothers, and the time we were growing up, what they used to give my mom, hell on earth, and we were taking care of them.
Oh, those are boys for you.
Boys can
Boys.
You have a
I'm
young
losing
boy
weight. Yes.
called Imani. You're actually losing weight because of your boy.
Oh my, yes.
How is
Very
that?
true. They make me run up and down. You get so consumed with the time. There's no time for eating. You don't have time for yourself.
What's
Actually,
his name?
especially when raising them up. I have Emmanuel, is my older son. He's 6 years now.
Yes.
I have Gabriel, who is 3.
Emmanuel.
You can imagine.
Names,
Yeah. The age difference itself, I think, has really made me
6 and 4, you've said?
6 and 3.
6 and 3. What?
I've been at home with them for quite some time.
Mr.
I almost-
Kimani also have a son. Sorry, I've cut you short.
Yes, I almost became a stay-at-home mom.
Why? Because of
Raising up
it would
those
have been
boys.
different if you're raising girls.
Sort of. Sort of. I feel like girls would adjust. Even if I leave them with a nanny, they would adjust and cope with the nanny. But I feel boys are so attached to the mom that I had to be there for them.
Because again, Mr. Kimani, mothers who are raising up girls normally say, it's easier raising boys, and apparently mothers who are raising boys, like Marianne here, I'm not pointing,
No, I feel the other way.
normally say, I think it's easier raising
Girls.
What's your take on that?
Now, you see, the most amazing thing is that for any woman who has given birth to a son, definitely she's never been a man. So this is a new experience that is coming up, and her attitudes towards raising that boy is shaped by so many things. One of them is the father who raised her, the brothers who have been around with her. We have also maybe cousins who are males. They are also probably lovers along the way for some ladies, and all these shape the attitude that the mother raises the boy with. They may be conscious or subconscious, but definitely it's a different word, because as she's saying, 3-year-olds and 6-year-olds, that's a bunch of activity right there.
Yes.
Now, amazingly, I think I've listened to a show where you're talking about girls. But when it comes to boys, they're so different, because when you don't understand the difference between boys and girls, then you'll especially for a woman, you may raise them the same way as you raised girls.
So there is actually a difference.
There are major differences. One of the major differences occurs in the womb. At about 6 weeks or 8 weeks, there's a release of the hormone testosterone. This changes the brain of a boy. Actually, the color even changes. And one of the major things that brings the change in the boy is the brain. The brain actually, as we know the brain, I'm not just getting a bit scientific, because if women would understand this early enough, they would, instead of having a small hell, you can have maybe a small heaven with the boys, because understanding is the key to everything. Now the network of fibers in the brain that separates the two hemispheres, for boys, when the testosterone is released, it thickens. That means the fibers take a longer time passing information from the left side to the right side. So when it comes to communication, boys will tend to be fewer with words. I'm very sure with your 3-year-old boy,
So it actually starts from childbirth.
that's from the womb.
From the womb.
From the
actually.
womb. The release of testosterone changes actually helps in the development of the boy. Now, if a mother is stressed at that particular time, it hinders the flow of testosterone. So you find the boy, when he's born, there is he may be affected in terms of development. And so it is very important for a woman to stay healthy and not be stressed up or control the stress factors that may be coming in life. Now, as I mentioned, the communication becomes slowed down. Another thing that happens, you find the boys are not able to respond to emotional issues as well as ladies.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that because
Okay.
it
For
actually
instance.
it actually makes sense why
Yes.
men don't communicate well.
Sure.
Now it's making sense. You
Exactly.
wanted to say something?
Yes, I can. I'm a witness to that now, as you're saying, as you're putting it across. Because at the time I was carrying my firstborn, I had lost a job.
Did you actually know you were expecting a boy?
I communicated to him. We are told to communicate to your child somehow, and I felt I told my boy, if you're a boy, can you move to the right side? And if you're a girl, can you go to the left? I had lost my job. I didn't have enough to go for even a scan. And the boy moved to the right side.
Then you actually.
And I did it again, and he moved to the right, and I started buying blue. I thought, this is a boy, thank you. I was also, I think we'll talk about culture and stuff. I was also pressured from the community that I'm married from. I was told, and if you don't give birth to a baby boy, you're not a wife still. Yes. So I really wanted it to be a boy. But I was saying, when I lost my job, I was stressed up. At some point I would cry a lot, and I would feel him like pushing my belly. He'd like squeeze me, and when I stopped crying, he was relaxed. If it's at the night again, I start crying, he would again press my belly hard until I feel like, oh baby, I'm sorry, I'm hurting you. I don't know. Yeah, so
Pregnancy, it's a lot of work, yeah?
it is.
Okay. Don't scare me. Don't scare me.
No. It's gonna be okay for you.
Yes,
We are going
amen,
through
in
this
Jesus' name.
lessons and all. And as you're putting it across now, communication for my son, especially the first one, was a bit slow. And I didn't know about the stress part of it.
Actually, you see what and this is for all men. When you go now to the deeper side of let's say, just to mention maybe on the relationship a little bit, you find boys or men, when they're intending to get married, they marry because of the comfort. And so the same thing begins from the womb. Comfort from the mother is an important factor for that young man who is inside to come out as a healthy person. I'm not saying it's all lost if you went through stresses. He will be able, when he comes out and finds a healthy atmosphere, he can be able still to grow into a normal boy. But amazing is that this hormone that is so much related to maybe the production of the male seed is ignored, but it actually affects a boy from the womb all the way till he dies. That is the power about this testosterone, and when it is understood well, a lot of women will be able to flow.
So how are we supposed to understand it?
Sure.
Now that's why we are here. Now we are talking to mothers, how to raise better sons.
Okay.
Now you realize when a boy is born, the first thing that every child, when he comes out, they desire is for comfort. Now there's something else that happens with the brain of a boy. Boys are not able to communicate their feelings, and they are not able to communicate issues that pertain emotions. Unlike girls, he can come out injured, he may be hurting, but he may be crying, but he's not able to express his entire feeling. And at this particular time, this is where a mother just needs to hold the boy probably in his hands and hold him close. For girls, they will have flow of words.
But I've seen mothers who have boys. When the boy cries, they go like, "You're a man. You're not supposed to cry." And the boy is 5 years old. How dangerous is that?
Now the danger about that, and I believe probably you have seen it, it is that we are shutting down the emotional part, which is not so well developed in men. So the only time they can express emotions, you tell them to shut up. You're telling them it is a wrong thing. And so even when he gets to maybe living with people and he's supposed to show emotions, they hide them. And that's why you find so many African men especially, they don't express their emotions, because throughout, as they were growing up, they've been told, shut up, you're not supposed to cry.
But they are actually supposed to cry.
They are. Crying is good. I wonder how you handle your small boys when they come running.
I actually let them cry. At first I used to think it's a certain stage that they're becoming too much, and I would let them ignore, cry at your corner. Maybe when you're done with crying, come back to me, tell me why you're crying. And as he's putting it, of course, they don't know how to express the emotions. And now I'm feeling like, oh, maybe perhaps at that time they felt ignored. Yet I should have embraced. Yeah, now I know. But I used to think, you're being a baby. Can you go at your corner, finish crying, then come back to me and tell me why you're crying? Now we can talk.
Is that wise, Mr. Kimani?
You find most of the time sending away the boy to a corner at that moment is looking for comfort, and that's what we have done throughout most of the time. You're a man, why are you crying? First go away, wipe your tears, and then come back and talk to me. And that is why we find
small child, for goodness sake.
And that's why we have created men who, when they have issues in the offices, they will look for where to cry at, and they go to corners. It could be bars, it could be probably another woman, and eventually they come home when their tears are already wiped, so they look okay.
But yeah, the way society normally says, it shows weakness when a man cries. Yeah.
So we need not to deny these emotions. Now, something also that happens when it comes to boys and mothers need to understand this very well, that she is the trainer and the teacher of how a boy will relate with girls throughout life. Now, if the relationship between the mother and the boy is not a good relationship, that is the way she will also handle women on the other side. The mother is actually the first girlfriend. So the boy learns everything about women from the mother. So if a mother is a person who is shut up, who doesn't communicate a lot, then the boy will learn so much from that woman, and she'll also expect future women or future maybe the wife to behave that way. I like what my son one of the fine days commented. My wife made a wonderful meal, and when we were going to the bedroom, he made a comment and he said, I will marry someone like my mom. My son is now he's 10 years, he's 11 years old now.
Wow.
So he said, I'll marry somebody like my mom. That is how important a mother is to a boy, because if you have good attitudes, and you will shape that boy towards looking out in a nice way for women. So you're the trainer, basically.
All right, yeah. And I think at some point, I agree that they look at the mom as the role model and what they want to see the mom look like. About the food, yes. Thank God at least I'm a good cook. If my house help would cook food, my son would stand in the kitchen and ask, are you able to cook good food like mom? But one thing that encouraged me the other day, there's a time I came from the salon, and I have a rule: when you're in the kitchen, tie your head. I was in the kitchen, I tied my head, and my son came back and asked me,
Your hair
tied my hair, yeah. And he asked me, why are you covering your hair? It's nicely done. And I said, oh, I have to be in the kitchen. That's when he said, you look nice. Can't you just remove that headscarf?
Your son?
Yes, my 6-year-old, and I was moved. I was like, wow, he appreciates when I look good. And he's very choosy.
And the way men don't notice.
He's very choosy. And you tell me, are you going out on slippers?
Really?
I said, just at the gate. He said, no, wear shoes. You're going further. You're going to the dust. And I was like, oh, okay, he cares. He thinks I should look good. He thinks I should be smart, neat, you know.
Mr. Kimani, I was talking to Jane and Marianne the other episode, and they told me there's actually a difference between raising a boy and a girl, in that there are different stages. When a girl is young, she's so much attached, and replying to the mom. What about boys? At what age do they?
You find from 0 years to around 3 years, the boys remain very attached to the mom because they are almost dependent on her. But by the time the boy reaches 3 towards 4 years, he suddenly realizes that this woman is different. There is somebody who is bigger, who looks like the best thing in the world, and this is the father.
Oh, and they start looking up to
And
the
suddenly they start
Okay.
detaching. And most mothers don't understand this stage because they feel mothers tend to feel rejected because the boy who was running to her now is suddenly running to dad. And when the mother was leaving for work, the boy would cry, but suddenly now he's crying for the father. When the guy is driving, the boy wants to sit and drive together. And so these bonds takes place, and this is the time when mothers need to understand they need to take their time back off, because at this particular time the boy is getting into identity. Now, amazing, you will find that boys later in life are threatened by intimacy. The reason being, this time of departure, when they leave their mothers to now attach to their fathers, they are like they have to kill some emotion. In fact, it's a hard time for them because they're like, I want my mom, but I feel a stronger pulling towards this man. So it is hurting me on the inside, but I have to do it because this is a guy who looks like me. So they are threatened by intimacy later in life.
I'm actually thinking, because I have 2 boys, I thought one is attached to me and the younger one is attached to the dad. I don't know whether it's because there's no girl to compare. It could be maybe I don't have a daughter to compare, but I thought my firstborn son is so very attached to me. To date, at age 6, he would still tell me, I want to go to work with you. But the second born is like so independent. Dad is gone, fine, mommy is gone, okay. But he asks, I noticed dad is not home. Where is dad? I thought he's attached to the dad more. So is it because I have 2 boys?
No, you see, also, they tend also to learn. Boys are emotional.
Okay.
I say it's not that there is no emotion,
There is.
but they also see now the smaller boy, the older boy suddenly sees that he's pulling away from you and he's attached to the dad, and they also sense, how is my mom feeling? I want to be the company to my mom, but at the same time you have to realize that he enjoys comfort. And as long as you continue providing this comfort, he doesn't mind being with you. But let me tell you, deep in his mind, he knows the place of his father. He knows where the father is supposed to be.
Okay, guys, let's take a break. We'll be right back after this. Don't move away, because we're going to talk about raising teenage boys. And the question I want to understand, why do men always listen to their mothers when they get married? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
For me, the festive season is a special time of celebration.
Fabulous goal from Lionel Messi. Right on the score.
It's a time where we fully experience the joy of being with loved ones, the joy of having good friends, and sharing the warmth of the festive season. Go share the joy of sparkling entertainment with GoTV. Enjoy movies, news, music, lifestyle, culture, documentaries, local and kids entertainment. GoTV, entertaining Africa. GoTV!
And welcome back. We have an interesting show for you today. We are talking about raising boys, and before we went on a break, I said we'll talk about raising boys, teenage boys between 10 and 19. Yeah, and they're stubborn at around that age, more stubborn than the time they were 5 years old, toddlers, and
Scientific facts, we start from there.
Yes.
Now, when a boy is born, the level of testosterone, amazingly just like the girls, is almost equal to a boy who is about 14, because it helps them to grow, for their brains to develop and also for their bodies to develop. Now, when it comes to around the age of around 6, the level goes almost to half. But the moment the boy reaches around 10 and 11, there is another burst release of testosterone. Now, testosterone is the one responsible for risks in boys. You realize that boys will take risks that you have never imagined.
Yes, like
yeah.
jumping on top of a roof, you know.
I'm a
fence.
witness to that.
They will climb places
They
that
want
you never expected.
They want to become the Spider-Mans they watch on TV.
And destroying stuff in their house, you know, a remote. Or at
Yes.
what point do they start experimenting? You spoil a remote, then you start.
From the age of 4, the boy gets curious, because you see his mind is wired so much for reasoning, and that's why you find boys are good in mathematics and sciences, because they reason things out.
Okay.
And so when something like a remote comes there, and he doesn't want, he wants to ask a question, how is it functioning? So he will tear it apart to be able to understand it. And that is why, as mothers and as parents, we need to give them a leeway to destroy some things.
Oh, yes.
You have to expect that.
That I'm beating.
Don't get a beating, because in fact that is we are destroying some of the future scientists. Because when they open up and they discover there is nothing, there are other things that may not be destroyed, and they are able to cope up with those things. So this hormone
That's true. Okay.
deals with what we talk about, taking risks. Secondly, it also brings the issue of competition in boys. I don't know whether you have experienced competition between your boys.
The two of them, true, I have. Especially when we come back to the remote thing, my second born is very good in destroying.
How old is he again?
3 years now. 3 years. And when people started telling him, you must be an engineer, you're going to become an engineer. Now my elder son went like, what about me? I also need myself be an engineer. Then he would pick up the remotes and try to destroy them. And I think he's over age. According to me, he's turning 7. So I'm like, he's over age. But this,
Should be reasonable.
yes, but now the competition comes in because the brother, somebody commended the brother, oh, this is good, you become an engineer. So I think competition applies, yes, at that point.
That is true. For men, competition is an in thing. In fact, they live to compete. So if you don't understand that with your son, that everything he does, there is an edge of competition in them.
It's just so amazing. All these things start when guys are just
Yeah,
small.
small. And that's what I'm
Even
thinking.
In real life, even
Yes.
up to now, I've seen men competing over stuff.
Bas, exactly, you're right. Because I was thinking, as they're growing up, even between around age 12, as I've observed some, they compete over girls.
Yes, think about that. At the age of 12, when they start realizing I'm a man now, and they want to experiment some stuff, because a lot of times we've had issues whereby boys had their first experience with a house help or something. What's your take on that?
See, at the end of age of around 11, 12, and 13, that's when there is another burst release of testosterone. Now, this time it causes the sexual awakening in boys. Suddenly, they have having unusual erections. You'll find probably they want to play around with their private parts.
Do they think this is strange?
Amazingly, they don't find it strange, but they find that this is amazing to me, what is happening to my body. And when parents don't understand this awakening, because I've spoken to boys, I told you we have about 70 boys we are raising, apart from the one we have.
Yes.
And you find most of them, I've spoken to them, and almost 99% they say they were not prepared for puberty. Their parents, their fathers never spoke to them, and of course the mother is ill-equipped usually to prepare the boy for this moment. So when the sexual awakening comes up, there is a need to create an understanding for the boy that one of the things that you will find is a sexual desire. You will want to suddenly notice girls who are not there before you never used to notice them. You will also have a desire to probably sleep with a girl. And you find most of the time these boys, they usually listen to their peers who are badly equipped for advice. So some of them will tell them this is what you need to do. So as a mother, as a father, you need to create a time to talk to the boys and explain to them what happened.
The mom or the dad?
This one takes both of them, because number one, I believe the woman is the conduit for teaching the boy on how to respect women. You need she needs to be the person who is training the boy on how to respect women. You don't treat women as objects. You don't touch their bodies, because the moment they're able to understand that, and you explain to them that this is the way girls react when they are touched, and this could lead to something worse.
What if you get you're challenged in an area whereby you have a son who is, let's say, teenager at 14? They think mommy should not be telling me this. Could daddy come in? Or
And what about again for the single mothers?
Now what happens amazingly, even for 14-year-olds, one of the challenges that comes in, he suddenly begins to pull away from both the father and the mother, because he is realizing that I'm becoming mature. Now this is where a father has to bring in an outside influence of a strong male who is respected by the boy, who is able to chaperone or guide this boy through the 14 years to 19 years. You have to slacken, because as I heard you mention in your earlier program, there is the aspect of you are a cake, you are very old age, you can't advise me. So you have to look for another man who could be slightly younger than you, who is respected by the boy, to help him steer through the ages of 14 to 19. In fact, some people have said that the ages between 14 and 19 is like a roller coaster. For a parent, is just to hang on and keep on trying to steer that young man out of the, because he will try things that you never.
And something that I'm just wondering, are you scared for your baby boys? Maybe one day.
believe me, yes. At times I wonder, I look at some behavior on the streets, even while walking or taking a matatu, and I ask myself, oh my God, is this what I'm gonna be getting from my son? And I start telling God, please prepare me. But I think some things need a spanking. I can't let this happen to my children. I can't let them go this far.
Yeah. And Mr. Kimani, just to add on to what you said,
Yes.
I was reading somewhere, I can't remember, they were saying it's actually men are more disciplined than ladies when it comes to when they are growing up. How true is that? Boys are more disciplined than girls.
Boys respond well where there are boundaries. Because when you have, like, for example, when you have many sons, or even when you have many boys together, there is something that is has been discovered that is called the pecking order. Just like the chicken have got the pecking order, the strongest one is at the top. Monkeys have the pecking order, where you find the one with the highest level of testosterone is at the top. I will give you an example of a story, a research that was done. They put some few monkeys in the cage, and they realized there was a weak one which was was the lowest of the order. So they decided to inject some testosterone into the weakest one. Within a span of a day, it was the topmost monkey. It had beaten all the others to submission.
Really?
That is what happens. Now, when it comes to boys, they are more, they thrive well in atmosphere where boundaries have been set. Therefore, that is why we say, even for mothers, you have to have a stand when it comes to some of the things that have to be done. And you know, when they find clear rules, then they follow them. Something else that happens when it comes to communication, boys tend not to listen. In fact, research has been done is that they respond when they put music in incubators where boys and girls were, and they thought that they would use music to make them grow properly. And boys never responded to the music.
Oh, really?
Shows you that boys have a serious issue when it comes to hearing and hearing instructions.
All right.
That is why for mothers, especially like now when you have the 3 and the 6, most of the instructions have to be given in short bursts, and you have to have maybe your hand on top. Because otherwise, if you don't hold him maybe briefly, then he won't listen.
All right.
If for older ones, leave a list. tell them this is what I expect you to do at the end of the day. That creates the level of discipline. So definitely I tend to agree that boys are disciplined, but when there are boundaries that have been set within the family or within an institution.
And do you think perhaps as we set the boundaries, I feel like they could follow instructions at a certain age or at a certain point, but there's a time they feel like, I think my way is better and you need to take my way now, as so it is everywhere else done this way in the society. The society has permitted ABCD, so I feel like I'm in a restriction thing.
Now, what happens with when it comes with the teenage, it's about fair exchange.
Okay.
You do this for me, I will do that for you.
That's it.
And the good thing is that as a mother, you have more services to provide than him. So when you say, I will go with you, I will give you the money for the movies, if you do this thing in the house, you clean the car, you clean the carpet, and you clean this, then you have a bargaining power.
Oh, I thought
So-
it was bribe.
It is not a bribe.
True.
You have, because at the end of the day, you have to make sure that your rules are being followed.
Sure.
And you have also to ensure that you are raising a boy who is orderly and releasing him to the society.
Oh, because I have that with my son. He told me I graduated in pre-unit. You bought me this. When I graduate for university, will I have a Subaru?
Now that's another thing I will say at this, and probably you have seen it with your brothers or with other people that you are working with. Men live for achievement, and they want to have a box that is full of things that they got because they did this and that. And one of the things that to encourage boys, but I will say also for the girls, but boys usually will always come up with the issue of if I perform well, will you buy me a bike? Because you want something that will challenge his competitive levels that are running within him.
Then it goes on even to the wife part.
That is definitely now, where now, as when you are seated here, we also have we talk to men a lot, where we try to explain that when you go into a marriage, now it is not about you do this and I get that. It is now understanding your woman.
Yes. It's a good thing that you brought up marriage. I just
Yes.
don't understand, and this is something that most women are battling with. You're
Yes.
married to a guy,
Yes.
then this guy listens to the mother. You know, I
All
just don't
through.
understand that thing. Maybe just make us understand.
Unfortunately, that if you're already married, it could be a challenge to change a lot of things, especially if the man is not watching the show. Because in fact, I like challenging. We need to have more men shows where men are talking to men, because we have a lot of shows where men are talking to women are talking to men, and women are talking to women. So that gives an empowered woman and a man who is left now who tells me. So, but to put on your part, it's where responsibility comes in. Most mothers tend to sometimes do everything, especially for their sons. From ironing their shirts, brushing their shoes, making their beds. And when a time comes at around 14, or even not 14, 11, 12, thereabout, where you have to start putting down responsibilities. Because what happens is that now he realizes I'm going to another home where I will have responsibilities, and most of them will not say that I am prepared. They are not usually prepared. Counseling, if a man is getting married and he comes in for counseling for 1 month, that is not preparation enough for a 50-year-old marriage to come. So there needs, these foundations needs to be early. Thank God that you are young mothers, so you can put some of these things right. But when it comes to men who are now too much attached to their mother, the only thing that you can do is now to...
Why is that? Because again, it doesn't happen to all men.
Not to all.
Does it depend with upbringing, perhaps?
So upbringing is so important. As we said, if the man everything was almost being done to them, they will tend to lean towards their mothers. Secondly, men talk out of trust. Women talk because they want to share their emotions. So if a wife is not cannot be trusted, probably what he wants to say, that I've made a mistake in business, I've lost money. If he knows that if he tells you, it will be a lashing out, then he may not communicate it to you. So they tend to go to a place where he knows Even if I might be lashed out, I will still find a place where I'll be comforted. So that is why there is tendency towards that.
Can I ask this? Taking you back to responsibilities, I tend to think at times they emulate their daddies. I heard a child somewhere speaking, and yesterday, it wasn't long ago, and this boy said the daddy was dropping them at an aunt's place, and the boy told the daddy, "Mommy said, when you drop us here, take responsibility, don't leave us." And I tend to think, some things they see from their dads, would they tend to be stubborn because maybe daddy dumps us somewhere and goes, so he can also decide to dump on things, dump on his work, dump on clothes and leave, and somebody will take care of it. Because daddy drops us somewhere, abandons us and leaves.
I will say this, every child, whether a boy or a girl, they are bachelors and bachelorettes in a family. And they are watching their mother and they are watching their father to know, for boys they are watching their mother to see what a wife is expected to be. They are also watching their father to learn on how they will have to treat their women. A man who has a disrespect for women will pass it on to his son unconsciously. Because one thing that happens is that when you dislike what somebody else was doing and you don't take a step to change it, and you keep on saying that I hated what my father did, you almost end up doing the same thing. So we must realize as parents that we play a major role into molding our sons and our daughters to becoming, and especially our sons, to becoming responsible men and women. If they see you that every time you're getting out of your house at 6 o'clock and going to work, then they think, and coming back maybe at 10, then they assume a man is supposed to leave home at 6 o'clock, and come back at 10 late in the evening and don't even say hello to the family. That's what they will tend to follow. Unless something like this show comes up where it cuts.
I think we should also have another session for this, because I know we've tried to squeeze everything in a short span of time. Very quick.
Sure.
Your last question to him, or last remarks before we wind up?
Yes. I'd love to know how to handle a teenage son whom we have come a long way knowing this is my mommy, she embraces me, she does this to me, and changes obvious. Changes from outside, maybe he wants to withdraw from mommy's hug all the time, and yet he's still growing up. I have to be close to him.
Now that's what happens is that you find communication for boys. Boys may not even tell you directly. If you sit with a boy face to face and you ask him what are the issues that are happening in your life, he won't tell you. Now, men and boys communicate sideways, like the way we are seated. They don't want to face because that is like a confrontation. So they prefer to communicate sideways. And the only way you can communicate sideways if you're doing together something in the kitchen. Now you'll find that distracts him from the aspect that he's opening up. And you'll find when you're doing something and he's not looking face to face, then he may begin up to raise issues like in school. You know, there are these boys who are doing drugs and they are trying to tell me to try it. That time you will have an opportunity to communicate to your son. So for mothers who are raising teenagers, you must create time. You must have time together when you're doing something interesting. Go to a ball game. If the guy loves rugby, go to a rugby game and sit down together with him. And at that particular time when he's shouting up and you're also shouting together, he may bring up, you may even ask, what do you think about girls? And he will give you his opinion. Because at that particular time he's ready to open up. It's a door opened. So information will come out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kimani. It was good having you on the show. I believe I'll call you again for another topic because I know we have not exhausted everything. Thank you, Marianne, for your time. Say hi to Joshua and Gabriel, and also say hi to
Emmanuel
and
Gabriel.
And say hi to
I will.
Son and Yashua and Alisa. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Do keep it right here on Ladies Talk. Next week we have an amazing show for you. And remember, raise your child well. I don't know how to finish it.
We have to take women, please learn on how to raise boys. There is a book I will recommend, Raising Up Boys by James C. Dobson. It's a must buy for all the mothers.
All right.
There's no better way to end the show. Do keep it right here on Ladies Talk. Until next time, do have yourself a blessed week. I have been your host, Winnie Adisa. Au revoir.